1 year ago, the entire world awaited the fateful outcome as the armies of Nazi Germany lashed out in the counteroffensive in the Ardennes. This was the Battle of the Bulge, the battle that came so dangerously close to crushing Allied hopes for early victory. This was the 11th hour von Rundstedt counterattack, on which Germany gambled everything.
At the time, it was called the Ardennes Offensive. Churchill later called it the greatest American battle of the Second World War, and an American journalist gave it the nickname that stuck for history, the Battle of the Bulge, and it was launched 70 years ago on this day. Welcome to MidPoint, the executive director of the 1st Division Museum in Illinois, graduate of the U.S. Army War College, retired colonel in the U.S. Army, Dr. Paul Herbert. Dr. Herbert, thanks so much for being here.
Hello, Ed.
The thing I think that most people would not know about the Battle of the Bulge is America was caught terribly off guard in this. If Hitler had gotten it right, this could have been a resounding defeat of the American forces.
Well, he certainly wanted to accomplish that, Ed. And you're right, we were caught flat-footed for probably no particularly good reason. We had thin forces deployed in a very rugged area where we thought the Germans wouldn't come, and that's where they came.
The front lines were continuously changing in this. We were unprepared for combat. So I guess the big point is then Americans were, we had guys who were freezing to death during the Battle of the Bulge. How did we manage then to come out with a victory?
Well, mainly the tenacity of the individual soldier and sergeants and junior officers who led those soldiers, and that was true all across the battlefield. There was also some very resolute and clear-headed decisions made by our senior commanders from Eisenhower on down. None of them panicked despite the desperate conditions. And then finally, once the weather cleared, Allied air superiority made the critical difference once the attack had been stopped.
We are always looking for turning points in a war, and certainly D-Day was one. But if we look at this, is it not fair to say that this was the final point because this pretty much sealed the defeat for Germany?
That's true, Ed. This was their last gasp in the West, and it was a big one, and it was very, very dangerous and a desperately fought battle. But once it had been repulsed, the Germans really didn't have another opportunity on the Western Front to change the outcome of the war. There was plenty of hard fighting left to do, but to the degree that anything in history is inevitable, the Allied victory was inevitable.
I've only got a short time left here. Tell us about the 1st Infantry Division.
Great division, Ed. They had been in combat since June 6th and pulled back to rest and refit, and then deployed days later in emergency conditions to hold the north shoulder of the Bulge at a place called Buchenbach, a little village in Belgium. And they did that heroically and under tremendous attack over several days. But the fact that they held that little village meant that the 3rd of 5 planned German routes necessary to their success was denied to them. And so well before the battles around Bastogne, the outcome had been decided by the 1st Division and other divisions fighting on the northern flank.
Great stories we never hear about. I got about 40 seconds left. Tell us a little bit about what you have there to your left.
Well, what I've got to the left is one of 7 dioramas here made of Legos and made of Legos associated materials from a company called Brickmania. And they've done a wonderful job of interpreting from historical documents the actual vignettes that comprise the Battle of the Bulge. That's Bastogne you see over my left shoulder. And we had 4,000 visitors here over the weekend, from toddlers to senior citizens, and they're just fascinated. It is a wonderful way to present the history.
You're located in what town in Illinois, Doctor?
Wheaton, Illinois, 21 miles west of the Loop in Chicago, and at Cantigny Park, open to the public.
Would love to go there. I'll tell you, next time I'm in Illinois, I have to go because I'm a great student of history, and certainly it's a wonderful place to take kids, young people, and learn a little bit more about why we are here and the people who sacrificed an awful lot for how we got here. Dr. Paul Herbert, I want to thank you very much for your time. I hope we get a chance to talk again. A very Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thank you, Ed, and a Merry Christmas to you and yours.
All right, it was a very tough Christmas for those soldiers at the Battle of the Bulge, many of whom did not know if they were ever going to get home again. What we're going to do again is take a break, come back with one last shot for Tuesday. The water cooler is next on MidPoint.